It doesn't aid in sustainable businesses, less jobs that only gives you a piecemeal pay, and more opportunities that can yield growth for your careers, for your businesses, and for the communities that you come from. Because we all know that when young people are empowered, their communities are empowered too. One person who was involved in creating those programs. And so when those programs don't work, people look really confused. It's because you excluded the people who have the capacity to frame what their development must look like. And this can result in actual change in our communities, right? And that's kind of the thinking that all of this is set against. That it's not just about building individuals, but it's about creating communities. And how do we build communities that are resilient and that can work together to address the problems that they face? Today, my colleagues at the NYDA and all of our partners will set out a roadmap for the month, hear from experts in the field of youth development, and build new relationships with the NYDA for greater collaboration in future. I'm personally very excited. I always say for us that work in youth development, this is our Christmas. It's kind of the pre-Christmas before December. And so I'm very excited to see what opportunities we get from this month. I'm more excited to see the young people that we'll be able to connect with and all of the collaborations that can come out of it in the different communities. I wish you all the best. Welcome. Let's have a good day.
Another round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Pal. And I think one thing that we can take away from what Pal has said is intentional access. And I think that's what we need to carry forward and also hold NYDA accountable, because you promised us intentional access. So with that said, we are moving along swiftly, or moving along. We would like to welcome on stage MEC Limakato Mahasa from the Free State Department of Sports and Arts and Culture. Round of applause, please.
No, thank you very much, Program Director. No, thank you so much for this platform that I've been given. Let me first start by acknowledging the presence of the Minister of Women, Youth, Persons with Disability, Dr., or should I say Mama, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And my Deputy Minister as well, for Sports, Arts, Culture, Mafu Mawe. Not Mawe, sorry. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm scared because I'm seeing so many young faces that I don't know. And also the Ward Councillor who welcomed us today, Councillor Lefamudise, the NYDA Board Executive Chairperson, Sis Asanda Luwaka. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Oh, okay. And other board members. Leadership of the June 16 Foundation, leadership of South African Youth Council, senior officials of government departments, and most important people are from my province, the Free State Province officials. Thank you for coming to support me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to read the speech that was supposed to be read by the Premier of the Free State, who's not feeling well today. That's why he could not join us today. I'm still young at heart, but I know some are saying, hey, this woman, she's very young, but she's using this paper speeches, whereas there's these gadgets. Yeah, no, I'm still young. Okay, let me just go through my speech, and I'm somehow, I don't feel I should be standing here after what Mepile has alluded to. What she said is exactly what should be happening. Our young kids are suffering out there. Our young kids are not getting opportunities that they deserve as young people. But we'll see. I'm sure this year is going to be a different one. This year is going to be a positive year for young people. It only depends. If you were in a mocha, you are not doing your part, then you won't get anything. It is my absolute pleasure to stand here and represent the Premier of the Free State, Ntate Policy Dukwana. This year marks 47 years since the brave youth took to the streets in various demonstrations to wage a war against an oppression. We are not only remembering and celebrating the lives and contribution of the fallen heroes and heroines of 1976, but we use this commemoration to remember and restore our commitment to the total emancipation of all young people in the country. The Free State Province is honored to host the main June 16 celebration in Mangaung from the 15th to the 17th of June 2023. You are all invited to come. We've got so many activities that are going to happen there, so you can just come. Maybe DM and the minister will bus you to Free State. We are also grateful as a province to have been afforded this opportunity, and we hope and are confident that it will add hope and improve the livelihoods of the young people from Free State and in the country. As a province, in line with this year's Youth Month theme, I quote, accelerating collaborations and opportunities to transform the lives of youth, close quote. We have committed as the provincial leadership to ensure that this Youth Month activities will have a tangible impact in transforming the lives of youth. We have also committed that the days of rallies, retlatsa the stadiums, and to try and score points, or to try and score, where we are not going to achieve anything out of it, it has come to an end. It doesn't help to go to those rallies. It doesn't help to fill those stadiums and have these party events without you achieving what you want, without you achieving your needs. That's why we said this time is going to be a different one. Therefore, every program that will unfold will and must directly transform and improve the lives of young people in our province and the country. To this effect, the provincial government of the Free State has committed that alongside national, on the 16th of June 2023, the government will announce a comprehensive and children, and also the outrageous numbers of drug and substance abuse. And to this end, the province will also be rolling out various radical programs to respond aggressively to these scourges. Let us also use this month to revive our community and also our commitment towards building a better tomorrow for our young people. Let us also use this time to reaffirm our commitment to youth leadership. The theme, the time is now. Did you hear that? The time is now. If you don't grab it, forget. For the young people of this country to take up responsibility and leadership of their societies. Like the youth of 1976, let young people be courageous and defend their constitutional rights to economic freedom, education, safety, and dignity. Once again, on behalf of the Free State Provincial Government, under the excellent leadership of Premier Policy Dukwana, we wish the entire country well as they celebrate this Youth Month. We also say that we are excited to welcome you to Free State, like I indicated earlier. I'm sure the bus will be there. We'll see you there. Thank you.
Izana, she's from Free State. Haibo. Masisi is joining from it. Yes, Masisi. That's the kind of support that we have. You know, when she was standing here, she was talking about papers, and then I was reminded, good, we do have Wi-Fi. So just when you open up your Wi-Fi routers, Youth Day 1, Youth Day 2, our password is Youth 2023. Please tweet, make sure that you're on social media, you are talking about this day. Our hashtags are as follows. Hashtag our youth, our future. Hashtag Youth Month 2023. Hashtag Youth Month launch. So please be on the streets and make sure that you keep tweeting. As we continue to move swiftly with our program, we will like to welcome Mr. Obamoloto, who is from the June 16 Foundation, to come on stage, please. Izadra? Those hashtags again. Hashtag Youth Month 2023, hashtag Youth Month launch. Don't forget.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, young people. Into this event. I'm representing the class of 1976, and it's a pleasure and privilege when we got invited to these events by National Youth Development Agency. Mine is not to talk about the budgets, creating jobs for young people, but is to remind them where we come from as a nation. I'm not only reminding young people, I also remind elderly people that this has been a long journey that we have traveled. We have really traveled a long journey to be where we are today. Our history is written in blood. Our history, there have been a lot of people who lost their lives in fighting for the liberation of this country. I will take you back to the colonial times. The very brutal people who took the remains of our king, that is Mampuru. We don't know where is the head of Hintsa. Now, how do we connect the history of the Mampurus and the Hintsas to the history of 1976? 1976 contributed to the history that was fought by our forefathers. We're only contributing and fast-tracking what our forefathers had already started. Now, our history, I'll just go to a few incidents that took place that showed this brutality of apartheid government at that time, so that those who are in power today, young people, should also understand that the history of this country, we lost a lot of life. Apartheid government introduced the system where they were assassinating our leaders. Shezi was assassinated. He was pushed in front of a moving train, so that when you look at the corpse of Shezi, you should be afraid to look at him. Abraham Khoputsetiro was sent a letter bomb, so that his body should be mutilated. Here I speak about the brutality of apartheid system. Now we come to young men who represented the young people of 1976, that is Solomon Kalushi. Solomon Mahlangu did not only meet his death like a person who had been knocked by the car, but Solomon Mahlangu was made to wait for his death. I don't know how many of you here, you can be able to wait for your death. He was sentenced to death. He was kept in Pretoria Every day, when the day passes, he was worried because he knew that he was to be hanged. Solomon Mahlangu took 49 steps. The 50th steps, he was hanged. Now, whatever you young people are doing, whatever you who are in the leadership of the government today, everything you do, know very well that there are a lot of people who sacrifice their lives for the liberation of this country. Few days ago, we have gathered here when we have the memorial service of the late Billy Massacre, who contributed a lot to the liberation of this country. We were with him in the trenches with people like Super Moloi, Rola Masinga, Methi Morobe. All those people contributed to the liberation of this country. So we are from the class of 76. We are appealing to the young people. We are appealing to the leadership of this country that govern this country with dignity and conscience. Moral conscience must come to.
We are standing on shoulders of giants. May we give Nyda Oba another round of applause. He's standing here, he's saying he is representing the class of 76. And as young people, I believe that is something we should take to heart and realize the people that have paved the way for all of us to talk about the access that we are talking about, to have the opportunities that we have in this moment. So, one more time, thank you, Nyda Oba. Now to join me on stage, I'd like to welcome President of the South African Youth Council, Mr. Oagilelo. Are we tweeting? Are we texting? Are we on all social media platforms? Facebook? Is it still relevant? Or are we on TikTok? Don't forget the hashtags.
Thanks, Program Director, Ms. Fiziwe Mpaku, Provincial Chairperson of the South African Youth Council in Gauteng, Mr. Benim Kabele, the Ward Councillor in Ward 39, Mr. Tate Modise, Minister of Young People, Women and People with Disability, Menkwazana Zuma, Deputy Minister of Sports, Meno Kawe Mafu, Executive Chairperson of the NYDA, Mr. Sandra Luwata, and board members present here today. The Minister of Sports in the Free State, Mary Makatso Mahasa, a rep of Joseph Foundation, Tate Upamoloto, families of the Soweto Uprising, victims, panelists, and guests. Today we gather here under the theme Accelerating Youth Economic Emancipation for a Sustainable Future. The theme emphasizes the essence of our aspirations as young South Africans. It reflects our determination to break free from the shackles of economic inequality and create a future that is sustainable, prosperous, and inclusive for all. However, as we come together to celebrate our youth and their potential, our hearts are heavy with the recent tragedy that has befallen Palesa Malachi, a 17-year-old student who was brutally raped and murdered on her way home from school in Soshanguve. Our thoughts and prayers go out to her family and the community. As we stand united against such acts of violence, it is a painful reminder that despite our progress, there are still challenges we face in ensuring the safety and well-being of our young people. We must continue to work tirelessly to protect and empower them, ensuring that they pursue their dreams without fear. As we embark on the Youth Month, let us recommit ourselves to the betterment of our nation. Let us prioritize our youth economic emancipation recognizing that it is through economic empowerment that we can create a sustainable and prosperous future. We must foster an environment that encourages entrepreneurship, job creation and skills empowerment. Our government, private sector, civil society and education institutions must collaborate to provide young people with necessary resources, mentorship and opportunities to thrive. Moreover, we must champion gender equality, inclusivity and rights of persons with disability. Our strength lies in our diversity and we must ensure that no young person is left behind. We must eradicate discrimination, dismantle barriers and create a level playing field for all young people. In the same spirit of solidarity, I'm proud to announce that South African Youth Council recently participated in an international conference on supporting the Sudanese youth at the invitation of the Sudanese Youth Council. We joined hands with global leaders to address the conflicts raging in Sudan. Our message of support and solidarity resonated with the Sudanese youth as we commit ourselves to working together towards lasting peace and relief for their nation. Today I call upon young people of South Africa to lend their support to the youth of Sudan as well as to stand in solidarity with the youth of Palestine, Western Sahara, and all young people around the world facing various challenges. Together we can make a difference. In conclusion, I urge each and every one of you to be agent of change. Let us harness our collective power, passion and creativity to shape a brighter future for our country. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Law. He says we must be agent of change. Young people, this is upon you. Be the agents of change. Be the change that you want to see in this country, in this world. To continue with our program, I'd like to invite on stage the Deputy Minister, Mafu, of Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, who will then tell us more about the role of the Department of Arts and Culture in nation building.
Asoze saphela mandla elilizwe elamakhosikazi asoze saphela mandla asoze saphela mandla asoze saphela mandla. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director, Ms. Fezifaka. Greetings to Umamu Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Minister of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, NYDA Board Member, Chair, Asanda Luwata, and all the members of the NYDA Board that are here, the Honorable Free State MEC for Sport, Arts and Culture, my daughter, Timakazo Mahasa, she knows. Don't look at her at being tall. She's definitely my daughter. Tate Opamulodo of the June 16 Foundation, thank you for reminding us that this freedom was not free. People died for this freedom. Thank you so much. Mr. Wahilelo of the SA Youth Council, Siyabonga Baba, for actually coming here and reminding that young people must collaborate and they must work together. Councillor Lefamo Dise, thank you for welcoming us. In Ward 39, we feel home. Your words of welcome meant a lot to us. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonani. Sanbonani? Sanbonani? Oh, okay. As the National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, it remains our task to coordinate the government's commemorative program, which we see as one of the foremost footholds to promote social cohesion and nation building. The national days are an important component of that commemorative program. In this month in particular, South Africa will pause as it remembers the gallant generation of June 16, 1976. And of course, we do this month with the Department of Women, Youth, Persons and People with Disabilities, because young people are there in that department. Now, as Frantz Fanon once said, that every generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission. Today's generation, against all odds and well-wind, continues to self-discover and define its mission in several fronts. This year, we are commemorating the Youth Month under the theme, Accelerating Collaborations and Opportunities to Transform the Lives of the Youth. In line with the theme, this year's program is multifaceted. It's a multifaceted one, bringing together multidisciplinary stakeholders, covering sport, education, arts, corporate entrepreneurship, business, and sciences, all in the quest to provide the young people with different opportunities through these collaborations. To keep the story of June 1976 ingrained in the nation's psyche, it would be important that it be told and retold. Not to depress society, but to revive ourselves of this memory, of our great tragedy, so that we aim much higher as we endeavor to create a better tomorrow against the stubborn battle of unemployment, of poverty, and inequality. As we collectively waged war against these socio-economic challenges, we must be clear-eyed and determined about our way forward, utilizing maximally the provided opportunities, such as the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, and initiated its own youth development and empowerment initiatives to support young people. Through this program alone, we, as the department, had graduated about 21 interns, and we are still busy with 27, and 13 additional ones have found better jobs somewhere. We hope to be able to absorb more. Residential Employment Stimulus Program, through which about 30,000 jobs are counted through the employment multiplier model, and placing 177 interns during the direct employment in different workplaces, which is managed by us. The NYDA branches that remain open for business, assisting startups as new entries into the market, and we really hope that there will be better collaboration between us as the department and yourselves, Asanda, to make sure that we reach more young out of these programs. The current generation of young people isn't only venturing into its mission through academic means, but also through sport. It has been my observation that, unlike the 1976 generation, there has been a notable and encouraging rise in number of women leaders in the current generation around the issue of sport, also even in other areas. This is evident in the leadership of organizations like NYDA, which is predominantly led by women, as well as in sport, just to mention a few. South African women in sport are leading the way as path breakers and trailblazers. I'm speaking about the likes of Abo Andile Dlamini, Abo Lara van Nierkerk in swimming. Andile is in soccer, those that don't know her. Nokolo Tesane, which is a soccer player. Nolusindi Soboy, who's playing rugby. Khutatso Munchane, who's a wheelchair tennis player. Bongi Wemsomi, the captain of netball. And Tatiana Skumaka, who is a swimmer. Very soon, we will be coming back to you as the department to report to our sector and the South African people of the progress we have made in critical developmental and policy areas, and paint a picture of how our collective future looks as a sector. It is often said that we must strive until there is a silver lining. I'm rather anticipating a golden lining in the end. Nothing can be more fitting in honoring the struggles of yesteryear's generation than providing an enabling environment for our young people today. So our struggles of today are a springboard for our tomorrow's prosperous future. As you navigate this tough terrain, do not let go of this South African dream. It is in your hands. It is in our hands, together. Like our father of the nation, our liberation icon, Babu Nelson Mandela once said, to the youth of today, I have a wish to be scriptwriters of your destiny and feature yourselves as stars that showed the way towards a brighter future. Program Director, thank you very much for your kindness for allowing me to pass this message of the department, and I also know that you are going to have a very vibrant and successful event in Free State for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, and we are grateful for the commitment that you've made here. Now we are getting to a different part of our program, where we will then be having an in-depth discussion with regards to and our generational missions. To welcome on stage, I'd like to call upon our moderator, Ms. Thandiwe Msomi, who will then introduce her panelists. Can we give her a round of applause?
Sanbonani, Ninjani. Happy Youth Month. How are young people feeling? Are we feeling good? Awesome, awesome. As introduced, Igamalam is Thandiwe Msomi, and I serve as the national spokesperson of the South African Youth Economic Council, and I'm very honored to have had this invite by the NYDA to facilitate today's panel discussion. I'm going to call out my panelists one by one, and as you come, please do take your seats on the stage. First up, I'd like to call Dr. Mama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Minister of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. She will be followed by Mr. Tulisa Ndlela, an NYDA board member. I'd also like to call upon the stage Ayabonga Buthelezi, a And then lastly, I'd like to call upon my colleague at the South African Youth Economic Council, Bonga Makanya, onto the stage. Can I please request handheld mics for my panelists, please? I'm also told that we have one more panelist, Karen Jwala from Trot Your Globe. Please, will you come up on the stage? Great, thank you so much. Is my lapel mic on? Cool. Thank you so much to all of my panelists for today as we launch the NYDA program. And to kick off the program, I want to start off by a quote that was said by Mr. Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. He once said, "Have confidence in young people, give them a chance, and they will surprise you." And the NYDA this month is looking at themes such as unemployment, lack of technology, and education inequality as issues that need to be addressed this month and throughout the year to ensure that young people have access to opportunity. And so to kick off the panel, I'm going to start off with you. As someone who was involved in the struggle for liberation in South Africa very intensely, how would you say the opportunities that were in existence for young people then are different from the opportunities that exist now for young people? And what inspiration can from the liberation movement in the class of 1976 to address the economic issues that we have today?
Thank you very much for that question, and thank you very much for today. I think you've heard from the foundation the opportunities of those days were very limited for young black people. For the white young people, it was great. They had free compulsory education, they had job reservation, they didn't experience unemployment, whether they passed or didn't pass, their jobs were reserved, and they lived where they wanted to live, they owned land, so the opportunities were different. For a young black person, you didn't have free compulsory education. But if you look at today, everyone has access to education. But the young people those days decided that they were going to change their situation. They are going to take part in changing their situation. They are not going to wait for somebody else to change their situation. They were going to change it themselves. And they participated in various stages of the struggle. It's not just 1976, the Mandelas started, others had started before the Mandelas. So from the time the colonizers came, young people fought wars against the colonizers. So they always were at the forefront of changing their situation. Now you say I must compare the opportunities with today. Today, young people have lots of opportunities. I'm not saying the situation is perfect, but let's start with education. No young person can say they are denied education because they are young or black or they are a woman or a man. There is access to education. I hear young people saying a lot about what they expect, but I don't hear them saying what their responsibility is. They don't even say, we want access to education, our responsibility is to pass. They don't even mention that as a responsibility, but it is their responsibility. So young people have lots of rights this time, but they also have responsibilities, which we don't seem to emphasize. I was listening very carefully to what Ms. Pillay said. It was all about what they expect, not what their responsibilities. Every right must go with the responsibility. She was talking about being at vets. It was the young people of this country who fought for that opportunity. During those days, we were not allowed to go to vets. We could only go to so-called black universities. Vets was for whites. If you were to go to vets, you had to apply. Government had to give you a special permit and all that. So I think the opportunities are better, even health, access to health. I'm not saying it's perfect, don't get me wrong. There's still a lot more to be done, but there's a lot that has been achieved if you compare with where we were those days. Women, young women, those days, I grew up in Natal. There was something called the Natal Code. If you were a woman, it didn't matter how old you were a minor. If you wanted to go and get an overdraft, even if you were working, you needed a man to go and sign for you. If you wanted to buy something on credit, even if you were working, you needed a man to go and sign for you. You could even get your son who doesn't work to go and sign for you when you are working, because you were a minor. So a lot has changed, because none of us are minors now. But also, black women were at the bottom of the ladder, because you were discriminated according to race, you were discriminated according to class and gender. So we always said women, black women, had triple oppression, which we have moved from that triple oppression. Yes, we are not at the point where we can say women, especially black women, are equal, but there is a lot of improvement. There is still a lot that needs to be done. Young people with disability had even the worst. There is a lot that has improved, but there is still a lot more that needs to be done for young people. The salary gap. During those days, if you were a black woman doctor, you were paid less than a white male doctor, less than a white woman doctor, less than a black male doctor. So a lot has changed, a lot more needs to be changed. But I also want to say to young people, you must be organized a lot more than you are. It's important to be organized, because when you're organized, you can push the frontiers much faster. It's important to be organized. I heard something that confused me from what was said earlier, that there are young people who don't vote because there was blame on other people, which confused me. Because the right to vote was fought for very hard. During those days, it was only white people who voted, and later it was the tricameral parliament. Black people were not allowed to vote. Young people, who is stopping you from voting? I don't understand that part. Maybe it's because I'm old, I don't understand young people's things. Who is stopping you from voting? You register to vote and you go and vote. And voting is very important because it determines who runs the country. It determines what policies get implemented. It determines part of your future. So not going to vote is actually dereliction of duty for young people. I think young people must mobilize. You must get every young person to register. Now you all have smartphones and you can go around assisting young people to register online. You don't even have to go to the offices anymore. And you can assist those young people who may not have smartphones. I think voting is critical for young people. They must go and vote. And you, as the leadership, must organize them to do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. I think that we have a lot of issues that must be addressed in this youth month. And I think I'd like to leave the conversation to Boga and Mr. Tunisa, because the Minister has unpacked a lot of issues around what the principles are, what we still need to do further to ensure that we can actually maximize these opportunities. Engaging with young people who want to be a part of the mainstream economy and access opportunity, what are those barriers and what work needs to be done to address those? And I think we can start with you, Mr. Tulisa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Facility. For me, in the engagements, and I'll speak more on the entrepreneurial side of young people, in the engagement with young people right across the country who in large part operate very small to medium scale businesses, the biggest issue is around access to market opportunities. When I say market opportunities, the state remains the biggest buyer of any goods or services in this economy, and it's going to be for the longest time ever. So if that is correct and is to be accepted that in the next 20 to 30 years that will remain the case, then how the state procures and how the state looks for services must be deliberate insofar as its lineage towards young people or its biasness towards young people, for two reasons. One, your average small to medium enterprise employs more people than a multinational, because the multinational has access to machinery and things like that. So because they are small, they are labor intensive. So if your procurement and your sourcing strategy is biased towards small to medium enterprises, it then allows you to give that aspect. But two, from a economic point of view, and I'm not an economist, but I once read an article by an American economist, Hajung Chan, who in that article he argues that countries of the developed north, simply puts the G7, if you look at them and how they rose to where they are today, they used to use economic protectionist policies, import substitution, and they were protecting their domestic industries. And then once they reached the top of the tree, if I may use that analogy, they then started kicking away the ladder. They started talking to us about your World Trade Organization, fair trade. But these concepts, if you look at them, they are fair insofar as equalizing the playing field between those who have resources and those who don't. So that those who don't have resources, mineral resources, can benefit from the extraction economies, that they will take their resources all the way up. So, I mean, for me, those two things say to me, if we could address the import substitutions, the protectionists, and we lift up the ladder. I call it lifting up the ladder because I tend to agree with Hajung Chan. The ladder has been kicked away by principally economies of the global north. You lift up the ladder, you allow developing economies, those who are endowed with coal, allow them to use coal in order to better their economies. those who have, and then maybe much later, when we are in a better spot, then you can have the nice to haves, you know. You can talk about the other nice to haves, you know. And I'm not in any way saying renewables are not important, but I'm saying right now, when we are drowning, when the economy is drowning, when today in Joburg CBD, before I came here, I tried to get chicken licken. And when I got there, they closed and they told me you can't open until it's 12 because load shedding will finish at 12. And until 12, between the employer and the people that work there, they've agreed to shorten the hours. So, I mean, when we're in that situation, we need to explore every opportunity. And going back to my first point, the only way to assist small to medium enterprises is maybe to relook at the procurement legislation. Because right now, when it says procurement is based on price, it means procurement is always going to go to the big established companies, because there's no way you're going to bid in any construction project, WBHO or any of the big 5 construction companies, because they have got the economies of scale and they've been doing it for many years and they are always going to bid you at a price. So if that remains our sourcing strategy, then you are likely to replicate some of these things. And lastly, facilitator, I do believe that if we can change that thinking, support more small to medium enterprises in state procurement now, even the private sector could follow suit, but they are not in any incentive to do that, because even the enterprise development funds and those kind of budgets don't go to young people, they don't benefit young people. So in the end, we've got to get to a point where we change at a policy level, but also us as young people, we need to be able to knock a little bit more on these doors. And I make an example with the NYDA. You know, I meet a lot of young people and they say to me, we don't get funding in the NYDA. And how I end that conversation, I just ask you for your GR number. If you don't have a GR number, I know then you've never applied at the NYDA, because there's no way your application ends without you being emailed the GR number. So a lot of young people say to me, but you don't get, and it's okay, what's your GR number? Send me, let me try and check. And then they'll start saying, no, I think my email, I can't remember my password, and you know, they are now all of a sudden stories. So it's good to speak on Twitter. I don't have a problem with that, but maybe before you go and speak against, maybe start by applying, you know, and once you've applied, then you can say we don't get assistance, because a lot of the people that say they don't get assistance, you find that when you follow up, they wouldn't have in any way applied to. It's just a generalization that it sounds nice, it gets more likes to say we don't get assistance in the NYDA, and when you follow up, people haven't even applied. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Oblo, and greetings, Minister, GM, and all esteemed guests. Just a thank you to the NYDA for putting together this program, and Happy Youth Month, like I said. I think, I mean, of course, it's not happy because the state of young people in South Africa is very bad. So I think the question you asked me was, what are some of the barriers that young people face in terms of participation, and what are some of the challenges that they face? And I mean, the first points of departure is to acknowledge that young people of South Africa have lost hope in terms of anything, in terms of participation in the economy, the level of joblessness, high education crisis, basic education crises. So we're in a state of complete despondency. And that's reflected in when you look at some of the voter turnouts every election year, you can see that young people don't see their hopes and aspirations through the ballot. And obviously that needs to change through you know, the creation of a state that starts to work for young people, that starts to reflect the hopes and aspirations of young people. And that's why we commend the NYDA for putting together this program. Some of the deep challenges that face, you know, it's layered. There's a job creation challenge, where when young people, you tell us to go to school, young people go to school, they attain a tertiary qualification, and when they go seek employment, there are no jobs in the market for them to be absorbed. So we have a huge job creation crisis at that level. Those who want to own businesses and then say they want to be entrepreneurs, own SMMEs, you find that there's poor funding mechanisms and poor business support programs within government. Today, the NYDA tells us every day that they support young people, and of course, maybe it's not their own making because they don't create themselves. They come into an organization that has been legislated by cabinet and parliament and all these bureaucratic challenges. But as a young person in South Africa, if you want to meaningfully participate in this economy and own a business in one of the strategic sectors, be it mining, be it transport, be it construction, be it any of the strategic sectors of South Africa, the NYDA cannot assist you with anything simply because they have a funding criteria which limits that. Number one, there's a cap of 50,000 or 200,000. If a mine tomorrow was to give me a contract to supply one truck and say, yeah, just come with the truck, so go and buy a truck, it's yours. And I go to Tulisa or I go to Asanda or Karabo or Wasim and say, I have a contract, please fund me. They'll tell you our cap is 200,000. Now, aggregated across the entire economy in terms of the strategic sectors, the NYDA can't finance or support meaningful youth participation in the economy because of the barriers that it has in terms of policy. So the first point of departure is to capacitate the NYDA, because young people see the NYDA as their vehicle towards their hopes and aspirations of a better economic future. And therefore, you must broaden some of the capital infrastructure that's within the NYDA for young people to access some of those resources, because the time of having box-ticking exercises of entities which are just there to say and report back in Parliament who's we're doing something for youth because we have this structure called NYDA, or we have a ministry called Women, Youth and People Living with Disabilities. But when you look at the budget items from Treasury, you find that the Ministry of Women, Youth and Disabilities has the lowest budget. Yet government tells us every day that the pending challenge of South Africa is the fact that young people are unemployed and that women are outside the strategic sectors of the economy. But the budget items in terms of allocation is the lowest. So the first point of departure is to say that government must be deliberate in creating funding and resourcing and capacitating, firstly, the Department of Women and Youth, but particularly the NYDA. When we go to IDC as young people, which is the one that gives you these big transactions, and is the one, by the way, that created all of these black billionaires that we are proud of today and say that we have people who are successful, it's through DFIs by government. If you go and check from 1994 until now, all these people that you guys praise, both black and white, were supported and funded by IDC because they didn't have money to do any of those transactions. So we, as young people, we want our own IDC. We don't understand why there must be an NYDA that's kept at 200,000 when NYDA could be kept like NEF at 25 million. If I want to buy a KFC franchise, I must go to NYDA and say, I've been given this thing, I want to buy a KFC franchise, give me the money. And you give me the money, I buy it. That's what they did, by the way, for all of these so-called black billionaires and millionaires we have in South Africa. So you need to create deliberate funding mechanisms to ensure that young people can participate at a meaningful level in the economy and not reduce young people to a box-ticking exercise. Also, we want a procurement policy that speaks to the hopes and aspirations of the youth. When we say that, we mean that we don't want to be told, Minister, about 90-10 rule in government. So in government, there's a thing called 90-10 rule, which says that 90% of this contract depends on your pricing. And we know that when it comes to pricing in South Africa, only established white companies are going to outprice you all the time, because they've been around for the past 30, 50, 100 years in terms of playing in the economy. So we must have empowerment programs within procurement of government to ensure that young people who are business owners who have a track record, even though they might be slyer than some young schoolman in terms of supply and delivery or whatever, is still prioritized through and it's not illegal to support that company, because currently, right now, under the current PFMA and MFMA, some of the empowerment programs have been deemed illegal and have been actually reversed in terms of some of those things. So we need strong political will to support youth development programs, both at a basic and high education level, ensure that there's free education. We are still going to push aggressively for that thing. 2, make sure that there's deliberate funding mechanisms, capacitate the NYDA. In fact, you must dissolve CFA, CEDA, put it under NYDA so that you can have a bigger budget, because those entities, when we go to CFA, we're told a lot of stories, but when we go to NYDA, things are very quick. Why? Because the NYDA is what young people know and what they believe in. So we must capacitate the NYDA and make sure that they are a fighting force in this struggle for reducing youth unemployment. I think I'll leave it there, but there's obviously other areas that we can touch on.
Thank you so much, Mama, for your inputs. I know that both of you said very interesting things, and the Minister actually wanted to make a comment to elaborate on something said by Mr. Tulisa. So if the mic can please go to the Minister for a few remarks.
Thank you very much. I just want to agree with you. One, there is, you know, the Western countries that have developed, in fact, all countries that have developed on everything that we have, which they didn't have. And they got it from us as a continent and as a country. And I think until we stop exporting raw material and we beneficiate it here, we process it here. If you export raw material, we are not only exporting that material, we are exporting jobs that are going to beneficiate and process it. We are exporting revenue, because by the time that you have exported as raw comes back as a finished goods, it's very expensive, 10 times or even more than what you sold it for. And sometimes you can't even afford it. So, but these things, it's a struggle. The struggle continues. So we must all, and I can say it because I say it all the time, I'm not trying to buy your faces. Until we stop that, we will always be where we are. Because if you export raw material also, you don't become a price caller, you are a price taker. So I want to agree with you on that. I also want to agree that we must decide as a country whether we want as people-centered development or a profit-centered development. And if we want a profit-centered development, we'll do what you are saying. We'll never buy from you, because as you say, you'll never be able to get a less price than people who have economies of scale. But if we want a people-centered development, we will make sure that we buy from small and medium, but also the procurement is there now. The bill is going to go to Parliament, because you know what the courts did. And in that, we have, in that bill, young people, women, persons with disability, and military veterans are going to be part of those that must be, have preferential procurement. So that is going to happen once that bill is passed. Then the percentages will be put in regulations. So that must happen if we are to empower young people. But young people must also be innovative. There are lots of people who are innovative, and I think we must also support them. And I'm happy that you know what our budget is. Because sometimes people ask me for big things. They want something that's bigger than our budget. You know our budget, when we have compensated employees and given and transferred what NYDA gets, about 70 or 70+% of our budget. Then goes to the Gender Commission. By the time we have compensated employees, we have less than 80 million for the entire department. So we don't have a budget, basically. And I'm glad you know that. But we are still going to try and work with others. But we have also agreed with the president that part of the skills revolution, because we have agreed there must be a skills revolution. Because without skills you can't drive, young people can't drive the economy of this country. So part of that is we're discussing with the Defence Force to contribute also to skilling young people. Because in the Defence Force there is no skill you can find. There isn't. So the Defence Force can skill young people in anything and everything. So we've agreed that we must engage the Defence Force. We are in discussions with them right now. And we just need then government to give us the money so that that can happen. Even if it comes from CITAS or from where, that is one of the things that we are trying to do as a department that doesn't have money, as you have just said. And there are lots of other partners that we are trying to engage. I won't go into detail because of time. But we also expect young people to be active. Because ingane ngakhali ifele empelekweni.
You, Ayabonga, into the conversation. And can we actually please give her a round of applause? She's a great friend. As a young person in grade 10 in high school, probably still figuring out what your aspirations are, and you're listening to all of our panelists talk about unemployment and all of these issues in our economy. What is your feeling about a future that you can create in South Africa? Do you feel as though enough is being done by government, by the private sector, to ensure that you and your students and your friends have a future in this country?
Well, thank you for giving me a chance. Well, I think we can change the future. I think that we can make difference. I think that we can make the country more richer than it is by, yes, as Maya explained, like by manufacturing our own goods, yes, by not giving away our, yes, by not giving away our minerals, like doing it for us, yes, and making the country richer, yes, and in education, like chances increasing, it can work for us, like more chance, more opportunities for us to go to varsities, and when finishing varsities, we want chances to work, we want jobs, yes, so like economy of South Africa is very important to us.
To bring you into the conversation as well, what do you think needs to be done between government and the private sector to ensure that there's hope for young people, whether they want to go into business or find a job in our economy?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. So I'll just touch on, give you a background on so I'm from a company called Charter Globe. So that's also basically us giving ourselves a chance because of unemployment and everything that's going on. We started this, as you said, Mama, we need to be innovative. So we are a wellness and fitness company, which is something that has been dominated by men for the longest time. And as you said, women have now come to the forefront of sports and all of that. So touching on what governments can do with private sectors is, as you said, the budget is not enough. The NYDA has funded us before, and that kind of got us on our feet, so we're grateful for that. But going further and trying to grow our business and actually employ people, we do need more funding, but that hasn't been possible because of, as you said, restrictions of the budget. So what the government can actually do is look in and not just, as you said, you're not buying face, but a flag for most of the time it's always been, we are helping, but we don't really see what we're getting helped with. We followed guidelines, we have followed everything we needed to do, but still opportunities are not there. So another thing is creating opportunities. As you said, we also can't fight the big companies that are there. We have big fitness companies that we are also trying to get into things with, but it's so difficult to go there because they have backing, we still a growing company, and nobody really gives a chance to people that don't have that criteria that's been around for a lot of years. We've been around for 7 years, and in 7 years, we're still trying, we're growing. Every day is a struggle, but we feel like with the government's help into the little businesses that we say, as you say, women and sports and arts and culture, it's something that you guys can actually come into and help us develop as well. Innovation, and we are active, the youth is active, it's not like we're just sitting and doing nothing, but when you're getting pushed down time and time again, it kind of defeats your hope and faith for something that's going to come and happen. So as much as we try, let's all try and meet each other halfway and not just put it on a piece of paper and say, we did this, let's actually implement what we say we're going to do. Because as she said, the economy is important for them, and they are going to leave high school, go to varsity, but it doesn't help if they're sitting at home like I did for the longest time, not having a job after completing my degree, you know? So yeah, I think I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the last question I'm going to ask is one that's going to touch on technology, because it's something that the NYDA as well is planning to address this Youth Month. And I'm an economist by training, and we're taught that an economy grows a lot through investments into technology, research and development to create more opportunities for people, to ensure that businesses are more efficient. And so I'll pose the question to you, Minister. In terms of technology for young people, for women, for people with disabilities, how can we ensure that we actually make an investment into technology such that South Africa can become the next Singapore, the next China, that actually adds value into the global economy? And how can we make sure that young people are the ones leading that as opposed to big established corporates?
Thank you very much. I think it has to start from school, because you can't meet technology when we are now trying to create a business. We must ensure that from school, kids are taught. Even from primary school, they must get used to technology. Then higher education, of course. But there is also in science and technology, there is an innovation fund. And I think our young people must apply for that fund for things that they want to do in terms of technology and innovation. We also partner with other countries, with other companies. For instance, before I came here, I was meeting with Samsung, because they do partner with some of the schools, they do partner with some of the universities, and I'm also trying to get them to expand, because there are universities that don't have faculties of ICT, and I want them to also assist them. So I think we all need to do that. But also, we need to be innovative in a way that we also develop our own technologies. Because at that moment, we are just consumers. We are not really developing our own technology. And I think that's something we must also support when technology, and when we do develop technology, we must also commercialize it. You know, it breaks my heart. I think we had a car here, an electric car. Some of you might remember, it was called Jewel. Manufactured and innovated here. It was not commercialized. Now we are going to be buying electric cars, other people's electric cars. So I think commercialization is also important, and we need as a country to get into that. But to encourage young people to innovate, we are in September going to have awards. Those awards, we call them 40 under 40. We're not 35, we're 40 under 40. So you still have a chance. Those awards actually do happen on the continent. This year they were held here, but it was Africa 40 under 40. There were 7 South Africans who won. Yes, and the overall winner of those 40 under 40 was a South African. So we have decided we must have a South African chapter of that 40 under 40. And we are going to be doing it with NYDA and also the ones who are running the Continental one, who are partnering with them. Just to inspire young people and to recognize those who are innovating, but inspire those who might still want to innovate. So yes, we are trying to encourage. It's not only in technology, it's in business, in many sectors. But technology underpins a lot of the things that we want to do, whether you are in agriculture, whether you are in science, whether you are anywhere. Technology underpins that. So I'm encouraging you to come up with, not only use what is there out there, but also to innovate and create our own. But also, I want to be controversial here, but when we look at technology, we must look at it and be critical and accept what we think is good for us. We're a country with unemployment, right? Shouldn't we be encouraging more young people to be employed rather than replacing them with robots? It's just... I'm just asking. Should we be using robots as a country? Because remember, where robots were innovated, it was because they didn't have the labor force. They were trying to deal with their situation where they had less labor force. Their pyramid, their population pyramid is upside down. There are more older people than young people. Ours is the reverse. Should we be using robots instead of human beings? It's a question. They will say no, it should be will be more competitive for profit, but what will be happening to human beings? That's a question I want. And robots, they don't pay tax. So, if we put robots everywhere, who will be paying tax for education, for health, all those things? So I'm saying, as we accept technology, we must we must look at it critically and say, what do we need? What does it do for us? Is it helping us in our situation, not in what is happening elsewhere, but here? But I'm leaving that with you. Thank you.
And on that note, I'm going to open the conversation to our audience. I will take a maximum of 3 questions, as I was instructed to do so. So if you have a question, please do raise up your hand and I will note you. And can I please request that we have a roving mic for those with questions? I will take your hand, sir, with the cap. Noted. Please state your name.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's already the afternoon. My name is Monono Mabusela, and I'm a social entrepreneur. I own a company with a few friends of mine. It's called Stick Up. We also run the Box Shop Online Radio, which is a youth incubation platform that gives young people the chance to enter into the podcasting space. I'm also a director of the Queen Nyda Foundation and also the director of Matekwane Soweto. We hosted the first Cannabis Festival in education, awareness, and development. So my question is for the 2 gentlemen there, because you had spoken about the NYDA, right? Okay, just to tell you about my own personal journey. I started entrepreneurship when I was like 20 years old. Now I'm 35, right? I went to Umsobombu. I wrote my business plan, did the financials with my own handwriting, right? And I got someone to type it for me because I could not afford a computer. It was during the recession, right? So this is my last year as a young person, and it's very important because I've been trying to apply with the NYDA, and even now, for example, I've got my phone up, and it's giving me error messages. So the whole thing about, when someone approaches you and they're like, listen, we've got something that's very pertinent that we want to present, and then you ask them that, where is your reference number? I have pretty much all the documents. Me and my team have been on the ground, and also thank you to Councillor Lefamudise, who has been very instrumental since he came into office last year, because he's been actually helping us physically as a youth to get people like yourselves on the platform. So how do we go about with the technological errors, right, that are from systems of governance, right? It's the NYDA first. And also, I've had a problem with my CSD, like if many of you don't know, the Treasury has a central supply database. Every time I try to renew my application, there's an error. So for me, it clearly states that there's a technological error from the government's perspective, especially when engaging with the young people, because we should not be facing, we live in the 21st century, we've got the 4th Industrial Revolution, but we still are facing technological issues when it comes to applying and also getting approved. So what is the NYDA or any of the organizations that are here, what are they doing actually to make sure that the technology is simplified, even for someone as my young self who went to Umsobombu, right, and got rejected because I was told I had to go to the CIPC and I didn't have money. I was a young person, I was from Soweto and I didn't have money. So how can we address the technological issues of the platforms that are not necessarily conducive or user-friendly to the young people? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I will note the gentleman with the glasses, and then I would like to take one lady to conclude the Q&A. So if there are any brave ladies, please do put up your hands. But you can ask your question, sir.
Hello, my name is Isaac Mkize. I'm involved with the gentleman who just spoke in the development of young people in 139. I also run my own foundation called the Africa Creative Arts Foundation. I hear that the NYDA has been alluding that there are a lot of opportunities for young people. I've never seen any of those activations because we have an office in Maponya Mall. It is not doing anything for young people. I know Kosinati, who used to run that office. We would go to Kosinati and say, Kosinati, we have challenges regarding us receiving funding or seed funding for our own activations for our programs. We would be taking back and forth. And I heard you say that young people, they would ask you that there are a lot of, they are not receiving any opportunities, and then you would ask them where is the code and all of that. But I think that NYDA has been politicized in a way that it doesn't favor a very disempowered young black child who is trying by all means, who has been neglected by the system that was built that is not in favor of them, to ensure that the township development of has favor to a young person who doesn't know even who stays in informal settlement, who stays in hostels, who stays in rural areas. So and also I want to direct also my question to the Minister, Dr. Kosazana. I know you recently have been placed in the position of being a Minister for Youth, for Women, Youth and People with Disability. I would say that I'm glad that, because I know you are always upfront when it comes to your approach when you are in the office. I want to say that your approach that you are bringing on forth in terms of including the military, I'm glad that you are bringing that into existence, because every young person shouldn't be absent in terms of job opportunities, skills, and all of that. To ensure that that drive force with the military, it is happening. Every young person, when they are doing matric, let them go and serve in the military. That will ensure that the mechanism that you want to use to ensure that there is a skill development, there is a job opportunities for young people, will be activated. All the young people should be ensured that when they are in matric, you go straight to military. That will activate all these bottlenecks that we have as young people, that there is no job employment and all of that. Other countries, if ever they are doing it, why is South Africa not doing it? Because you will find a long queue of young people wanting to apply to enter military. It favors people who are in position, who are putting their families, and who are putting all those. I think that nepotism needs to stop with the people who are working for the government, because it is the one that is creating a lot of bottlenecks when it comes to the employment of young people in this country. Thank you.
I'll take the question from the students on my left.